Okay, hello everybody. Thanks for sticking in there. That was that was one of our longest programs. So I am Kathleen Quillian. I am one of the co-directors of Shapeshifters Cinema, and I am also one of the participants in the Still Moving group phenomenon that you just saw. Well, you just saw part of it. And I guess it was sort of explained pretty well by Lynne at the beginning. And so to recap, what you just saw was the third project that came out of a workshop that was originally happened in May, hosted by the Maysles Documentary Center and led by Lynne Sachs, who's with us tonight, and Paolo Javier, who both work with moving images and poetry. And so they decided to have this workshop back in May. And so we have a few of the artists with us tonight who took part in that original workshop. So what we just showed tonight that you just saw was the third project and second collaboration that came out of that. And the title, The Tenuous We, came out of a one of the pieces that happened in the second project that was inspired by, or the words were taken from a poem written by Judith Butler. Text
came out of an article by the philosopher Judith Butler, and I'll just read the phrase that captured me, which was, "Loss has made a tenuous we of us all." I read that in the absolute dead center of the pandemic, and it stayed with me.
Yeah, so we should just go through quickly and say who we are, what our names are, and where we are connecting from. As I said, I'm Kathleen, and I'm connecting from Oakland, California, which is where Shapeshifters is based. And who else do we have with us?
I'm Quinn, and I am connecting from just outside of Palm Springs, California.
I'm Farashta. Oh,
it's hard.
Usually, yeah, go ahead.
Okay, I'm Veronica, and I'm in Montevideo, Uruguay. You're up, Farashta.
Okay, I'm Farashta. I'm in South Florida, in Miami, Miccosukee and Seminole land. I'll call on Dee.
Hi, I'm Dee Dee, and I'm connecting from Long Beach, New York.
I'm Lynne, and you already met me, but I'm here from Brooklyn, New York.
Oh, and that's my 5-year-old asking for milk in the background. So I just wanted to thank the Maysles Documentary Center for sticking with us 7 months beyond the original workshop that they thought was only going to be 2 days long. And I also wanted to thank Lynne for being the intrepid leader in our group. I don't know, maybe not leader.
Yeah. There was no leader.
Yeah. But you stuck with it.
Oh yeah, I did stuck
much longer than you intended.
Oh yeah. But you know, it wasn't what I was intended. But if we did everything that we intended, we wouldn't have the joy of the surprise. And I've been teaching, if you call it, I mean, this was teaching, I guess, for like 30 years, but never, ever, any semester, any workshop, did I ever have anything happen like this.
Wow.
you know, where this bond happened and that we just kept making work and exchanging work and being so also reliable to one another. Like, you know, it's like a new relationship where you're wondering if the person is like as committed as you are.
Yeah, clearly we are committed to something here. What else did I want to say? Oh, so the first two projects, I should say, are still available through the Maysles website. And you can find that if you go to the Maysles.org. I believe it's on their website. Yeah, so the first two projects came out of the workshop. This third project that showed tonight was essentially came out of my experience working with the second project. So the first project that we made was individual pieces that were in response to the workshop. The second project that we made was an exquisite corpse. And while I was doing my part in the exquisite corpse, I started thinking about how I would have handled the same material that came from the artists that worked before me. You know, all I had was this piece that Laura made, and I just was I was trying to get inside of her mind and trying to figure out, you know, how she came to the final piece that she handed off to me, and sort of thinking about, well, how would I have worked with that same material, you know, differently? And so I put the prospect to the group of the idea of working from each other's words and images. So what we all did was we each made 2 poems and 2 videos, and then we were randomly assigned to other people in the group, and then we each made a response to those pieces that we were given. So that sort of puts what we did in context. And so so we each made 4 pieces, just to explain what exactly it was that we all just watched.
It's kind of mathematical.
And how you can do it at home.
Don't forget it was your daughter who matched us up.
Yes, it was my daughter. I put all the names in a cup and I handed it to my daughter, and she pulled out, you know, the names because I didn't want to be, you know, I don't want to seem preferential in any way. Just wanted to make sure that it was completely random. And so, yeah, so I don't know. So I was curious to know, like, how this process compared to the other projects that you all worked on with this group, how it, you know, how it changed working with images and text for you, if it changed anything for you, or if it opened up new things for you, or.
I have a comment about that. Yeah, it actually opened up a completely new like way of working with my artwork and image and the poetry. Like, it put it all together for me. And personally, it's been fantastic. Like, it's been a great opening. But also, just to comment on the process from when we all initially met in May and created the first Still Moving projects, and then how that very naturally moved into the exquisite corpse, and how we were collaborating because we were coming off of the person that preceded us, right, as inspiration for our piece, and making that connection. I really loved that. But then this project to be able to make so much work, so many very short pieces, and to connect with, it's kind of complicated the way we did it. So what I liked about it was, and what I really want to say about it, is that we each either received a poem or a video that inspired either a poem or a video. So when I received a poem from Dee Dee, then that inspired the images that came from it. And when I received an image, it inspired, a moving image from someone, it inspired the poetry that came out of it. And that was just really amazing. And created so much variety, like so many new ideas came out of that. And yeah, so that's my input about that.
Well, I agree with Quinn. I think working so deep with someone else, especially in this moment when we're all so introspective in a way because of what's happening or not happening. It allowed us to go into zones that we wouldn't normally go with our art. Personally, at least that's what happened to me. I was particularly in the piece I made with Caroline, on the poem about my mom. Like, I would never have created images of flowers for that. And I thought it was, I had no idea. I was like, how is she gonna work with this? This is impossible, to create images for this. And it was something I could never have done on my own. And she did it. So that's kind of magical to me in a way. And it's just the magic of collaboration.
I so agree. I'm just sorry we didn't have a chance to make one together, Veronica.
Well, we could. Who knows? Who knows what's going to come of it?
But the element of surprise is so true. When I sent Quinn my poem, which was the quintessential New Yorker's poem about the New Yorker, and then she came back with these images of palms. It was such a delight. It's like, you always want to push yourself in a new direction and not repeat yourself, and collaborating with someone else sends you in this new direction.
One thing that occurred to me just now is that there are two verbs that we generally think of as passive. One is reading and one is watching. And what we did, reading created image making, and watching created poetry. And that's a step that I'm now realizing is mostly erased from this deep engagement with art of any kind. Like, you read and you contain, but you don't react in the way that we did. So I think it was that second layer, even more than more than writing a poem and more than shooting a video, was that second layer of activating those two verbs. And it just occurred to me here.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
And I really liked just getting to know people through the correspondence of receiving something from them, whether it was images, or the text, or even their voice, and not because I don't know everyone that well or at all before now. And then over time, like learning little bits about, just thinking about, where are they? Where did this come from? who is the person who made this? And then to the next layer we added was to have the conversation that we recorded. And that was really nice to really connect directly with the people after responding to these little notes we had passed.
Yeah.
And
And
there was more revelation, no? There. Sorry.
Mhm.
I was just going to say that we were really unsure about that part for Esh Day. And I think you were Quinn. One of you were definitely said we shouldn't include that. And like, I was convinced. No. But I was convinced maybe you're right. And then even up till 2 days ago, Moira wrote us and said, oh, no. We can't have, it ruins the show to put the interview, the conversations between every film. We can't do it. And it was like emergency. You know, she wrote to Kathleen and to me, and we just said, whatever you think, that's right, go for it. And I think Moira's hunch was right, but of course we just didn't know. And we all listened to each other.
Well, I have to say, like, I said that because, well, one, I'm an introvert and I'm terrified of cameras. But aside from that, I also felt like, as a poet, I hate explaining what I'm creating. And even my visual imagery, all of my artwork is either poetry or music, even though you're looking at something visual. So it just was like, I don't want to explain anything. Everything has to stay in the mystery, in that, in between the words and filled with the images. But it actually was really beautiful to see after everything was done.
Well, I thought nobody was going to understand whose was which, but then Maura did this editing.
Oh, beautiful.
I was also worried that at least my conversations were long, even though I tried to cut them down. But she cut them, and that, I think that really worked. And I think it really works the way it was presented now, but maybe someone else should be the judge of that. But I think well, I was also like, how is this gonna be? Like a little bit like, is this gonna work? Like, it's gonna be too long or boring some parts, but I thought it was great the way we organized it.
I think that I keep thinking that, like, a good part of what this experience that we're all doing together is really about how we work together. I mean, like, there's so much, it's like a glacier. Like what we saw tonight was just, and on Thursday and tonight was just the tip of the iceberg. And then there's so much that happened underneath there that, some of which came to light in the conversations. But it's just been really kind of fascinating to experience, like, we're sort of like in this pool together. We're just sort of like floating around. We're like, what do we do now? Like, are you okay over there? Like,
I actually think you're right. I think and we're all going through this in multiple levels with families or with any people with whom you normally interact in one way, and because of the pandemic, you're interacting in another way. But it's definitely, this is a true sociological experiment or petri dish. Like, it's, how does a group work of people who do not know each other? Really. I mean, I knew a few of you beforehand, like 4 of you, but only one person in the group, and that was Moira, did I know really well. And the rest of I really feel like I've gotten to know everybody, and that's just kind of shocking.
And wonderful.
Wonderful. I'm so grateful for this. It is so wonderful to meet all of you. And this last project just brought it to a depth that I'm really thankful for. And there's something really intimate that happened working with, by working in those pairs the way that we did. I'm very thankful for that.
Yes. I
Like,
agree.
you know, when you now, because I've just seen the pieces that we did, or you all did, because I didn't, but in the very beginning of the workshop in May, and I have to say, things like the pacing, there's so many new things that happen because of an awareness of how text works with image rhythmically, that I thought had really developed. I'm sounding like a teacher, but I'll just say this, you know, had really developed, like people took breaths, or they let images, you know, like settle, or they waited, or that even in these short pieces, the rhythm didn't feel rushed. There was a kind of engagement between sound and text that was so much more even elegant, or considered, or something like that. I don't know. That's what I thought.
Yeah. I totally agree, because in the at least I haven't seen the first piece in a while, but I remember I had to cram all these words into these images, you know. It's like, because I wrote a poem and it had to fit, something like that, right? And it was like, it was just, okay, let's do the poem, and okay, this image will work. At least that was my experience, because I was, you know, I wasn't very, I don't know. And yeah, I totally feel that at least I feel that I learned something about that, about what you're describing. So I'm very grateful for that.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I was trying to explain on Thursday at the Maysles talk, like how I approached this, because I did poetry in college, but just because I love words and I love playing with words, but I never really like took a formal approach to poetry then. So I haven't really played with or worked with poetry in 20 years. And somehow this experience just really like opened up this, you know, it just cracked something open for me. I'm just like, wow, I need to like jump in and swim around here a little more. Like, this is so fascinating. Like, how do people come up with poems? It's so hard. It's not easy. And I was explaining how, like, I'm just so used to writing one way, which is like, you know, making a point, like writing linearly. You know, I have like thoughts I need to string along, but writing poetry is a completely different animal. So in a way, I'm learning and unlearning at the same time, going through these, you know, these, working with these, in these different ways with, you know, moving image and poetry and text. Yeah.
And I came at it through the other end, which is as a writer and poet, and having very little experience with the images, but finding that working with the images was more like poetry, making poems. Like just the way the juxtaposing of images and tensions between them and contradictions was like, oh, this is like writing poems.
And you used it so well when you shot the phone.
Mm.
Right?
Oh yeah.
That was very like a filmmaker. I don't know. It was, you know what I mean? Like it was, well, it really worked the way you did it. It was perfect.
Yeah. Well, we could probably go on forever, huh? But it's pretty late on the East Coast. Probably have mercy on you East Coasters.
It's 1:30 a.m. here, so.
Oh, Lord. Okay. Well, maybe we should wrap this up.
Thank you, Kathleen.
Yeah.
Thank you for organizing.
Thank you
this.
so much for, yeah, thank you everybody. And have a wonderful solstice evening.
Yes.
Yes.
The days are going to get longer.
Good.
Things will be getting better. Yeah. Yeah. Well, thank you so much.
21, 21. 21 and then 21. Is it the solstice on the 21st?
Yeah, tomorrow.
It's at 5:02 Eastern time.
Okay.
And yeah, so you can, and also that the alignment of the stars is happening.
Yeah. Well, the planets, yeah, Jupiter.
Yes, the planets.
Saturn,
Sorry,
and the moon. You're able to
Exactly.
see the moons of Jupiter if you look through binoculars, and the rings of Saturn. Now, somehow the way that they're aligned right now,
How
Yeah.
beautiful.
pretty amazing.
Yeah.
You.
Auspicious.
So we've shown everything we did. Now we have to do something new.
That's right.
Different.
Yeah, what's that going to be? Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Qui sait?
Let's think about
Well,
We'll think about it.
Yeah. Well, thanks everyone for joining,
you.
and it's great to see you all. And have a wonderful
you.
holiday,
hope
and
to see you soon. Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, and
Happy New
everything.
Year. Healthy New Year.
Healthy New
New Year.
Year.
Yes.
Thank you.